Good evening, all. Welcome back to the Premier League. Back down to reality with a bump after a championship title win, as so often, a 3-0 defeat to Liverpool here at Carrow Road on what was still a very, very memorable day. The opening scenes of this game as Carrow Road returned to a full house, just over 27,000 was the official attendance, and the atmosphere was incredible. When the players came out of the tunnel, all the usual things, the warm-ups were good and everything. But then that first on-the-ball City and just the roars, the flames shot into the sky. The buzz was incredible, and they're scenes that I'll never forget. It was very emotional. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the photos because I'd imagine there were some tears in there. It was a spine-tingling moment, but of course, you have to get back down to the reality of the football eventually. Daniel Farke and Jurgen Klopp have only just finished their media interviews. When you're back at this level, the media glare is huge. Teemu Pukki, for instance, I think was just speaking to Finnish TV, and from remembering 2 years ago, that's pretty much every match that he does that, particularly if it's a live televised game. They want to speak to Teemu, obviously, but he had a pretty thankless task tonight. Didn't really get any proper sights of goal, and there was one moment where it was very, very close to closing down an Alisson kick, and that was literally metres out of the goal because Alisson had missed his touch. But that was about it for Teemu, really. But at half-time, it was, as much as 3-0 now does sound a bit grim, particularly on a weekend when the other promoted sides in Brentford and Watford both got wins. Brentford beating Arsenal on Friday night and then Watford beating Villa as well. It feels like Norwich have been a bit left out of the club. They couldn't complete the set, but Arsenal and Aston Villa are not Liverpool. Liverpool had Virgil van Dijk back at the heart defence today. He's obviously making his way back from a long-term injury, but he is pretty undisputedly the best centre-back in the world when he's at top form, and he was nominated for all those awards during their title win, wasn't he? And he's just a bit of a Rolls Royce, and to have him back was obviously a massive boost for them. They filled out that away section over my shoulder, which, so I'm guessing is about 3,000 there. There was a little bit of a scare before kickoff when we thought that not all the fans were going to get in. There was a bit of a panic on Twitter, people posting pictures of big queues outside the South Stand, but he managed to unblock whatever was preventing people getting in, and all of a sudden the South Stand filled up. So thankfully they avoided a lot of very annoyed customers, because if they'd have missed those moments but have been just outside that stand and hearing it all, I think that there would have been some people who were pretty upset, but hopefully that was negated largely. But yes, 3-0. But as I say, it was 1-0 at half-time, and there were lots of positives. Norwich played really well, loads of bright stuff, some really sharp passing. There was a lot to take from that moving forward from today will have given hope. Milot Rashica, the man that you see there, he was very much involved, and he was probably one of the better players today. But like most of them, they really tired in the second half. And I think in that first half, if they were playing a Watford or a Palace or a Burnley, I'm not saying they would have been 4-0 up or anything, but the way that they were generally controlling the game, I think they had the better possession at half-time. And if they didn't have a team who pressed in the way that Jurgen Klopp has his teams pressing, I think they may well have had a fair bit of joy in that first half, because there was a lot to like. That looked like a title-winning team who had been joined by some fresh, talented, hungry players who were really giving it a good go against one of the top teams. And they were only trailing to a goal which certainly owed a lot to a good chunk of luck. I just spoke to Ben Gibson. He was the man who was basically as close to it as you could get, and he doesn't think Mo Salah meant the touch. It was a Trent Alexander-Arnold cross that comes in from the right. He was given far too much space, particularly in the first half. I think Aarons and Yanulis were just bombing on that bit too much and weren't providing enough defensive strength there as well against such a top team. Maybe just a bit too much ambition there. The ball comes in, and then Salah just takes what's almost a fortunate touch. If he meant it, it was an absolutely phenomenal assist. I don't think he did. And then Diogo Jota has got the pretty simple task of turning past Tim Krul from close range. That's 1-0, and that punctures things. And then Norwich are hanging on a fair bit after that goal. But the reception at half-time was very much one of appreciation, of applause, standing ovation, the crowd singing. And it was amazing. Honestly, it was amazing to hear the crowd singing just the usual songs. Although it was quite funny. At one point, they tried to sing Farkas on a horse, but it got to the point where it used to be, we've got Leitner, Buendia and Rhodes, and everyone just murmured a little bit. They're like, oh, what do we sing here? So the fans may need to get their heads together a little bit on who those three players are going to be from now on. Also, Carrow Road was decked out in lotus yellow and green flags today. There's quite a few of them littered around the empty Carrow Road now, but that added to the sort of sight to behold before kick-off. And yeah, there's still plenty of happy memories to take away from this one. I won't go through all of the events of the game. There was Todd Cantwell nearly scored a goal of the season contender in the first half when Tsimikas, the left back, who's come in because Andrew Robertson is injured for Liverpool, Todd nicked in when he'd miscontrolled the ball and just went for it first time, right on the wing, curled a long shot from 30, 35 yards. Alisson was scrambling, just didn't get enough curl on it. If it had gone in, it would have been an absolutely incredible goal, and that was still at 0-0 at that point as well. There was the chance for Pukki that I did mean to mention, was in the first half, which was probably when he chose the wrong option. He should have passed across the box to Rashica. Cantwell, lovely ball into the right channel. Cantwell was given the sponsors man of the match, and he was certainly up there with one of the brighter players today. Lovely ball into the right channel. Pukki's got Alisson to shoot at, but also has got Rashica storming into the box and probably should have squared it. Just smashed it as hard as he could at the near post, and it was tipped behind for a corner. Alisson probably didn't know a lot about it at that point. Krul had also tipped one over from Jota early doors, and the goal was the 26th minute. But from there on, through half time, like I say, Norwich were hanging on a bit. Pierre Lees-Melou made a goal line clearance essentially. That all came from a really poor Dimitris Yunus header. Don't know what he was trying to do really, just got it all wrong. Salah's first volley was blocked by Lees-Melou, and then he recovered to block the Virgil van Dijk follow up behind as well. So yeah, 1-0 at half time. No changes, but there were more chances for Liverpool after the second half. They moved through the gears, and that was kind of the fear at second half, wasn't it? It's like, played well, 1-0, but this is Liverpool. If they move through the gears now, this can end up being a 4-0 or something. As you saw with Manchester United earlier against Leeds, when they scored 4 goals in such quick succession to win 5-1. If Liverpool turn it on and hit their mettle, then hit their rhythm, then of course they can score goals in quick succession. They made 2 substitutions just after the hour. They brought on 2 Brazilian internationals who won the Copa America in the summer in Roberto Firmino and Fabinho. That's the quality that they possessed. But before they'd even brought them on, Max Aarons had to make a really important block to deny Sadio Mane, and Hanley managed to hoof it clear. There was a good save from Tim Krul as well when Tsimikas squeezed a shot past Max Aarons. And then, Firmino, 4 minutes after he came on, again, a bit of a slice of luck to it. Ben Gibson got out to tackle Sadio Mane. The ball bounces off Grant Hanley to Salah on the right of the box. And there is Firmino just waiting to finish past Tim Krul from close range in the middle. That's 2-0. And then it was in the 74th minute, it was 3-0. Corner comes in from the corner just down here. And Ben Gibson gets his head to it, nods it on. No one's marking Mo Salah. I don't really know what that's about. And okay, it's a zonal marking, but everyone just seemed to get sucked to the ball. There was a huge scrum of bodies in the middle. And then it's Mo Salah. He can pick out the top corner quite happily, and it was a great strike. No one needs to be reminded of his quality, and that's the quality that the top teams possess and that Norwich will be facing throughout this season. So that is the adjustment. That's the step up, isn't it? That you got to deal with. Daniel Farke's substitutions, they came 77th minute. Josh Sargent got his Carrow Road debut, replacing Milot Rashica. Adam Eder came on for a tired-looking Teemu Pukki. Both put themselves about well. Sargent looked like he had a really good touch, actually. Lashed one shot low beyond the far post. There were a few bright signs, but Liverpool were kind of sitting in deep then and just trying to see things through to the full time. Kieran Dowell also came on for Todd Cantwell with 4 minutes remaining. Just to take a little step back, it was a 4-3-3 matching up to Liverpool. The team, as expected, really. Grant Hanley back in despite playing no pre-season, and he certainly did nothing wrong today. There was one particularly good tackle on Jota at the start of the second half where he just took man and ball, and he got a few appreciative moments out of the crowd today for his work. A real shift for him. So the longer him and Gibson stay fit, the better that's going to be for Norwich. We all talked about how tough this start to the season is. But then Aarons and Yanulis right back and left back. Billy Gilmore playing in the deepest of the midfield three. Lucas Rupp, Pierre Lees-Melou either side of him. Rashica playing on the left and Cantwell on the right with Pukki up top. So I was surprised Kenny McLean didn't come in. I thought Rupp and Lees-Melou were struggling in the second half, just running on empty as much as anything. Lees-Melou looks like a player who certainly has got a lot of ability, but maybe doesn't enjoy being pressed in the way that Liverpool did today. And you could say the same for Gilmour, that there were, again, you saw some really encouraging signs from him today. Some nice passes, some good touches, but Naby Keita in particular just hunted him down all the time, and he struggled at times with that just because of the pace of the press. And it was, again, quite obvious that Norwich did not have an Oliver Skipp type, a proper defensive midfielder. That isn't what Gilmour's game is. He more today reminded me of sort of Tom Tribal. He was more of a pivot, just setting that tempo and getting the quick passes off a lot. And we've all said it before. We know there's still a couple of weeks until the transfer window closes, but they do need a defensive midfield option at the very least. Not sure that's Jacob Sorensen. We need to see more of him in midfield to make that judgment. But from what we've seen of him in midfield, he doesn't look like an out-and-out defensive midfielder to me. He doesn't look you sort of Alex Tete type who's got that defensive nous and that strength. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that develops the next couple of weeks. Of course, Manchester City away next week. So I don't think you could blame them for parking the bus, turning up there, particularly what happened final day of the 2019-20 season. That was 4-0 in the end, was it? Was it 5-0? I kind of stopped counting by that point. It was pretty miserable as the 10th consecutive defeat was being confirmed. We all know how difficult that is going to be. They might even have Harry Kane as well by then. They're starting to look like the Harlem Globetrotters, aren't they? Jack Grealish already signed for £100 million. But in terms of ratings, I don't think you can read too much into ratings today, really, because I think you've got to keep that context of the really disruptive pre-season that they've had, the really difficult start to the season that they've got. But I'll give Tim Krul a 7 because he made some good stops today, didn't do anything wrong for the goals. Ben Gibson and Grant Hanley as well, as I've already said. I think luck really wasn't on their side today because they did a lot of good stuff, got through a lot of good work. I think they both deserve a 7 as well. And I think Rashica and Cantwell were close to 7s. They're probably in with the 6s with just about the rest of the team. I think Rupp, Lise Malou, Pookie and Yanulis, maybe if you were being harsh in the second half, dipped into 5s at points. As I said earlier, I thought McLean should have been coming into that midfield mix really, but I don't think you want to be handing out 5s really on the back of this result when you put all the context behind it. And really the overarching story of today is that the fans are back, that you guys are back here at Carrow Road, and it is such a relief to be back to normality. Unfortunately, back to Premier League normality as well, a 3-0 defeat here to Liverpool, but hopefully enough encouraging signs that if things just fall their way a little bit more than they did today, then they are certainly capable of pulling off an upset against a big team like this. And it will certainly be interesting to see once we get through to those more winnable games, the Watford game, which is the other side of the September international break, for instance, which of course is going to be a massive game, as to how this setup has developed by that point and whether the confidence is flowing enough to start beating their direct rivals. Because that's the big thing. You don't, as a newly promoted team, you don't stay up by beating the big boys, do you? It's about getting those points against direct rivals, which they did not do basically at all 2 seasons ago. So there we go. An unforgettable day in a lot of ways. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of the game in the comments below. And of course, we'll have all the reaction and analysis for you at pinkin.com. We'll be recording a podcast before we head home as well tonight, so we'll get that out for you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.